Hello, I'm Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. Domestic violence is a serious public health issue. Recent national research shows that around 1/3 of women have experienced domestic violence. But we know that men can be victims of this abuse as well. It doesn't matter your race, your sexual orientation, or your income level. Domestic violence can impact anyone. Here in Ohio, we want to do all we can to support healthy relationships. That's why shortly after taking office, I signed an executive order offering new protections to employees of state government who are victims of domestic abuse, including those in dating relationships. Today's training will help State of Ohio employees, managers, and human resource professionals create a workplace culture that fully supports survivors and holds domestic abusers accountable. By taking an active role in addressing issues of domestic violence, our workplaces could be safer for everyone.
The Department of Administrative Services, in collaboration with the Ohio Department of Health and the Barbara Warner Workplace Domestic Violence Committee, has designed this training to increase your awareness about domestic violence. The training will focus on the 3 R's: recognize, respond, and refer. The state of Ohio is committed to promoting the health and safety of its employees while striving to make a significant contribution towards stopping domestic violence. The goal is to provide a supportive workplace in which employees feel comfortable discussing domestic violence and the adverse impact it can have on people's lives. Barbara Warner was an employee at the Ohio Department of Health, ODH, who worked in the Family Planning Unit where she advocated to ensure the clinics had information about domestic violence. Her co-workers did not know she was a victim of domestic violence. Barbara was murdered by her husband on May 27, 1997. In the aftermath of her death, her co-workers formed a domestic violence work group, which led to many changes at ODH. ODH was the first state agency to have a specific domestic violence policy, which was used as the basis for the statewide policy. Other agencies have experienced similar losses, and this issue has the potential to impact all agencies. The statewide policy serves to raise awareness of domestic violence and reduce its impact on the workplace through resource distribution, education, training, and establishment of the Barbara Warner Workplace Domestic Violence Committee. Let's get started with the training by reviewing the learning objectives, which are explaining what domestic violence is and its impact on the workplace, recognizing the signs of domestic violence in the workplace, understanding your role in responding if you observe someone who may be either causing harm or experiencing harm related to domestic violence, and becoming familiar with referral resources available to domestic violence victims. Domestic violence is a community problem that follows victims and abusers to work and often can affect productivity, increase absenteeism, and increases the risk of violence in the workplace. Between 1/4 and 1/2 of domestic violence victims report that they lost a job at least in part due to domestic violence. The workplace may be the one safe place a victim has for support. The workplace is uniquely positioned to offer support and resources to help employees experiencing domestic violence. One of the first steps to ending domestic violence is to talk about it so others can better understand the difficult choices victims are faced with every day. 74% of employed victims of domestic violence said the abuser harassed them while at work. Also known as intimate partner violence, domestic violence is a pattern of violent and coercive behaviors used by one intimate partner against another to control and maintain power over that person. Intimate partners include family or household members, romantic partners that are not legal family or household members, spouses, former spouses, persons living together as spouses, persons who have a child in common, regardless of whether they have been married or have lived together at any time, and adult persons related by blood or marriage. Domestic violence may include physical violence, sexual abuse, emotional or psychological abuse, verbal abuse, stalking, and economic control, and can occur among people of all backgrounds in these relationships. Nationwide, an average of 3 women are killed by a current or former intimate partner every day. Domestic violence happens in all kinds of relationships, regardless of income, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, or religion. Domestic violence statistics show that women are more often victims or survivors, and men are more often those causing harm. 82% of all domestic violence victims are women. Men and boys can also be victims. There are fewer domestic violence statistics on the LGBTQ community, but a 2012 report from the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs, NCAVP, shows rates of violence matching other national reporting, with approximately 1/3 of both women, 32.6%, and men, 36.1%, reporting as survivors of intimate partner violence, IPV. Employees do not always share that they are in an LGBTQ relationship. In LGBTQ relationships, where those involved have not widely shared their relationship, the batterer may use the additional tactic of threatening to out their victims to work colleagues, family, and friends. For this reason, if you don't know the gender of your coworker's partner, don't make assumptions. Use gender-neutral terms such as they, them, and then follow the person's lead and use their language. This policy recognizes abuse in a relationship as domestic violence regardless of the length of the relationship, regardless of whether the partners live together, and regardless of the legal nature of the relationship. One final definition that is important to understand is stalking, which is included as one of the behaviors associated with domestic violence. Stalking is a behavior that often goes unacknowledged. Stalking is a crime in Ohio and is defined as engaging in a pattern of conduct that knowingly causes a person to believe that he or she will be physically harmed or will endure mental distress. Stalking may impact both the victim's workplace and the workplace of those who cause harm. More than 1 in 3 women have experienced rape, physical violence, and/or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. You may have heard that abuse happens because of job loss, financial stress, anger management issues, or substance use. However, many people experience job or financial stress and never engage in abusive behavior. Similarly, anger management issues or substance abuse issues are often excuses used to explain away domestic violence. The real commonality with abuse is that the person who's doing the hurting, humiliating, or manipulating is seeking a sense of control and domination over the other members of the relationship or family. Abuse impacts work performance and productivity. Studies have found that 64% of victims state that the violence significantly impacted their work performance. Another misconception is to think about physical abuse first when it comes to domestic violence, but that's not the only kind of abuse that happens in domestic violence relationships, and in fact, it's not the most common. Physical abuse includes hitting, slapping, punching, pinching, strangulation. Many people may report this as choking, shoving, even throwing objects at the other person, or driving dangerously to intimidate the other person. Sexual abuse includes unwanted touching, forced sex, using alcohol or drugs to obtain sex, or pressuring or forcing someone into pregnancy. Emotional or psychological abuse may include any kind of threats, intimidation, extreme jealousy, manipulation, or controlling those you talk to or spend time with. Verbal abuse includes humiliation, insults, put-downs, constant blaming or dissatisfaction or yelling. Economic abuse involves the abusive partner controlling access to necessary resources, such as money, bank accounts, vehicles, and access to technology such as cell phones and computers. Moving forward through this training, you will be provided with examples of ways both men and women are impacted by abuse. To be clear, most people do not cause harm in their relationships, and most people are not victimized. However, one person causing harm impacts many people. The children, relatives, and friends of the person being harmed are affected. Most people do know or will know someone who is directly impacted by this issue. When you start learning about people's actual experiences, domestic violence may look different than you expect. Domestic violence does not have any boundaries, and it impacts people from every zip code, every income level, every race, religion, and nationality. You may notice that one of your coworkers might be experiencing harm or causing harm in a relationship. Don't ignore what you see. You might be in a position to notice signs where others are not. You can let a manager or your human resources point of contact know if you observe signs that cause you concern. If you feel comfortable to do so, you can also provide support and resources to your coworker. Not every sign automatically means there is abuse happening, but every sign is an opportunity to help. Let's identify some signs that often indicate someone who's experiencing harm. You may notice signs of physical abuse, such as a black eye or a handprint-shaped bruise. Other physical signs could be broken bones, red marks on the neck or face because of being strangled or choked, claims of being clumsy or accident-prone, an explanation of an injury that just doesn't quite make sense, or attempts to cover up injuries with makeup or clothing. Signs of physical abuse are not the only signs to look for. You might also observe emotional or psychological signs. Common emotional signs include comments about distress, anxiety, depression, comments about stress at home, acting withdrawn or missing out on social interactions, or talking about a partner's anger or temper. Workplace behaviors can also be indicators of abuse, such as frequent or chronic absenteeism, tardiness due to the abusive partner controlling access to transportation, unexplained performance issues, requests for time off due to injuries and/or court dates. The coworker may receive frequent, harassing phone calls, emails, text messages, or other communication from their partner to check up on the employee while they are at work, or may receive multiple cards, flowers, and gifts at work. You might notice a coworker's partner randomly showing up at work, hanging around outside, or asking you or other coworkers questions about their partner's whereabouts or behavior. These signs could indicate stalking, which is incredibly dangerous behavior. It is important to understand that any of these may have alternate explanations, but could be indicators of domestic violence. So if you are seeing these signs, especially in combinations with each other, consider alerting a manager or the appropriate human resources point of contact, or following up with the coworker to find out more. Regarding a coworker who may be causing harm, some signs you may see in the workplace include: a coworker may blame their partner for problems they or their children are facing, may speak negatively about a victim who has held their partner accountable, or speak defensively of those being held accountable for domestic violence by the media, such as sports figures, actors, or politicians. The coworker may frequently be on personal calls and/or away from the work area, such that they seem to be involved in complex personal matters. A coworker may use state resources such as a cell phone, state vehicles, or computers to stalk the victim while at work. While these indicators do not necessarily mean that the coworker is causing harm in their relationship, Finding ways to safely and appropriately counter these behaviors both send a clear message, supporting healthy relationships to the person affected, and counter the potential assumption by others in the workplace that these behaviors and beliefs are supported by others. Most often, you will not see actual incidents of domestic violence happening in the workplace. Instead, over time, you may become aware of signs such as those previously discussed, which indicate a pattern that may be caused by domestic violence. However, if there is ever a situation where there is immediate danger, call 911. If you observe or are made aware of incidents of domestic violence that occurs on state property, while conducting state business, or during state-sponsored social events, report them as soon as safely possible. Remember to follow your agency's procedures on reporting workplace incidents. If you become aware of concerns that a coworker may be experiencing harm or causing harm in their relationship, determine how to best respond to this concern. There is no expectation that you respond directly. You can alert a manager or the human resources point of contact of what you have observed and leave them to proceed appropriately. In some situations, you may have a relationship with the person you are concerned about such that you are comfortable to respond directly. You may not feel certain enough of your concern to be ready to involve others, or feel that providing resources to your coworker directly makes sense in the circumstances. You don't have to be an expert in domestic violence to help a victim. It is always also an option to call local domestic violence experts yourself. They are available to answer questions, help you assess the signs you have seen, and share from their experience about domestic violence. They can help you plan what will work best for you to do to provide appropriate support. Some options you might discuss with them may include offering support directly, referring your coworker to available services, or sharing your concerns appropriately within your agency. If you do decide to share your concerns appropriately within your agency, such as with a manager or the human resources point of contact, be specific about what you have observed and why you are concerned. Be aware that the agency staff will not be able to tell you how they respond or the outcome. They will carry forward with the information you have provided. Responding when a coworker is experiencing harm. In this section, we provide some examples of how you might have a conversation about domestic violence with a coworker if you feel comfortable. Let's first focus on having a conversation with the victim. You will learn more later about your role if you suspect a coworker is causing harm. Watch this short video showing an example of an employee talking with their coworker about what they have observed in the workplace. While you are watching, pay attention to the way the employee approaches this difficult conversation.
Hello? Yeah, hi. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I haven't heard yet. They're gonna let me know. And I'll let you know. Listen, I just got into work. Can I call you back later, please? Okay, bye.
Deborah, are you all right?
I'm fine.
I just wanted to make sure that everything was okay. I've been worried about you. You haven't seemed like yourself lately. You seem really jumpy and on edge. Is everything okay?
I'm okay. Actually, I'm not okay. But I will be, really.
Do you want to talk in the break room where we can have some privacy?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
What's going on?
I'm just going through some personal stuff, dealing with a guy I've dated on and off.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thanks. I don't really want to go into the details.
Hey, it's okay. You don't have to tell me anything.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Anytime. I'm glad to listen. And hey, I don't know if this applies to anything that you're going through, but I know those posters in our restrooms, they have phone numbers for anyone who's dealing with domestic violence or sexual assault. They all know about upsetting and complicated relationships. Plus, sometimes it's easier to talk to someone who doesn't sit in the next cubicle.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know if I want to talk to anyone right now, but we'll see.
Of course. If you need anything, I'm here anytime, okay?
Okay, thanks.
If you have a conversation with your coworker, or if a coworker comes to you to talk about their situation, use the following guidelines. Give yourself time to plan the conversation. Check to make sure you have resources on hand. Review information from this training. If you're not comfortable having the conversation, seek confidential advice from one of the internal or external resources provided at the end of this training. Confidentiality and privacy. Find a private place to talk one-on-one. Let your coworker know this is a confidential conversation. I want to talk to you confidentially. Starting the conversation. Neutral observations. I have noticed the bruises you had last week, and you appear to be worried and upset today. Express concern. I am concerned about you. I thought it could be possible that you are being hurt by someone. Is everything okay at home? Are you safe in your relationship? If they do not disclose, offer resources anyway. Remember, our EAP is available for any kind of stress or problem, and feel free to take one of our resource cards in case someone you know might need help. No further questions or speculation should be made at this time. You should follow up if you observe any additional indicators or concerns in the future. If they disclose, express concern and offer emotional support. Thank you for sharing that with me. This is not your fault. You do not deserve to be treated like this. Use active listening skills. Take care to not be judgmental. Encourage them to seek help and offer options. I could give you a phone number to talk with an advocate who specializes in relationship abuse, or maybe you would feel more comfortable making an appointment to talk with EAP. As we discussed earlier, a coworker may disclose information to you and ask for assistance related to their position. Work with them to plan to talk to their manager or someone in human resources to get help for their work-related concerns. As a coworker, you can provide support and referral to resources. Your coworker can reach out to local service providers for additional support. Responding when a coworker is causing harm. If you have serious concerns that a coworker may be causing harm in their relationship, work with your agency human resources point of contact to determine next steps. Your agency human resources point of contact can work with your coworker's manager on how to put the employee on notice of the consequences of engaging in actions that could cause harm while on state property or conducting state business. If you have the same manager as the person you have concerns about, or if the concerns impact on your work or the work of others in your work setting, ask your agency human resources point of contact to help you and others impacted to support you based on the specifics of the situation. As was discussed in the Recognize section with regard to signs that a person may be causing harm, sometimes the signs are much more general, such as downplaying the seriousness of domestic violence, speaking negatively about victims of domestic violence who are widely known through media reporting, or speaking negatively about women. Even if the person is not causing harm in their relationship, these comments are not appropriate and may contribute to a workplace culture which does not feel safe for you and other coworkers. As a coworker, if it feels safe to do so, let them know domestic violence is a topic you care about and are prepared to talk about. When harmful statements or behaviors happen in front of you, if it feels safe, it is okay to let the person causing harm know that their behavior is inappropriate. Let's listen to one way you can step up as a bystander when you hear a coworker engaging in abusive behavior.
If my ex thinks she's just going to move right on and start seeing other guys, she's got another thing coming. I know she's going to that bar with someone tonight. I just might stop by and ruin their date.
I'm sorry to hear you guys broke up, and I know that's rough, but you could get in a lot of trouble for that stuff. That could be seen as stalking, and it's a felony. In this scenario, we might be able to empathize with the difficulty of moving on after a breakup or divorce, but it crosses a line when we hear threatening language like, "She's got another thing coming." That is a vague reference to a threat and should be taken seriously. Next, we hear the coworker threatening to engage in stalking behavior. This coworker may not be making a serious plan, but given our knowledge that 75% of domestic violence homicides happen after the person has left the relationship, and 75% of domestic violence victims were stalked prior to their deaths, there is no acceptable kind of joke about stalking or threats. Next, let's examine how we can respond to comments that are not necessarily abusive behavior, but perpetuate myths about domestic violence and promote victim blaming.
Did you hear about that athlete who was accused of abusing his wife? It's not fair. You can tell he's a great guy. You know how women are. They'll say anything for the alimony money.
I like that player too, but with everything we know about how common domestic violence is and how hard it is for victims to come forward, I'm not going to be one more person who doesn't believe victims. Don't forget, there are probably people here at work who have been victims of abuse, and they deserve respect. You might not change their mind, but by saying something, you make it clear that it's not an appropriate comment in the workplace, and you show others who may be listening that you stand up for victims. Sometimes it's more serious. If a coworker is or may be violating workplace policy, follow your agency policy on reporting misconduct, or reach out to your human resources point of contact for guidance on how to proceed. Some examples of workplace behavior that may also be against the law fall under the definition of stalking. Stalking in the workplace can occur in many different ways and often uses the resources of the stalker's employer. Examples include using work desk phones, company department-issued cell phones to torment others with repeated and unwanted phone calls, using an agency vehicle to follow and appear at places where the perpetrator knows or believes the victim may be located, using the state's computers to email the victims against their will, monitoring the victim's email and other inappropriate computer activity, doing any of these activities while on work time or on state property. If you observe a coworker engaging in any of these behaviors, follow your agency policy on reporting misconduct, or reach out to your human resources point of contact for guidance on how to proceed. Resources for a coworker experiencing harm. If you are aware that a coworker is experiencing harm, you can provide them with resources they can call to receive help. Remember, as a coworker, your role is not to solve the problem or be the rescuer. If you are comfortable to do so, you can be a trusted listener and provide connections to internal and external resources. It is important to understand and have a sensitivity to a coworker's willingness and ability to seek out help. They know their situation best and may have multiple reasons for not actually seeking out the referrals provided. You may use the restroom resource cards to provide a quick reference and easy-to-conceal list of resources for them. If you are comfortable with providing some support, help the survivor recognize their strengths and let them know you are supportive of them. It is also appropriate to be clear they need to identify external sources of support using the available community resources. Making a referral for a coworker causing harm. As we discussed earlier, anytime there is immediate danger, you should call 911. Otherwise, As soon as you have concerns that a coworker may be causing harm to a partner, please contact a representative from your agency human resources office. They will take the appropriate steps based on the information you share with them about what you have observed. A list of more detailed referral information is provided at the end of this training. Here is a resource document that you may use with a survivor to assist them with obtaining resources. Internal agency resources. There are internal resources at your agency who can help. Your agency human resources point of contact and agency OEAP representative can assist in providing additional resources to you. Ohio Employee Assistance Program. The Ohio Employee Assistance Program, OEAP, is an intake, information, counseling referral, and support service for state employees and their family members. The OEAP is designed to help employees, managers, and agencies meet the many life challenges while remaining healthy, engaged, and productive. For instance, the Ohio EAP can assist employees in coping with personal problems such as family and parenting issues, alcohol, substance use, and emotional concerns. For example, anxiety, anger, grief, or depression, as well as provide referral information when an employee may be experiencing legal and financial difficulties. Personal problems can affect your health and well-being as well as your job performance. The OEAP is available to assist in resolving these problems. Unresolved problems could result in health problems, family disruption, job loss, or even death. Also, the OEAP assists managers and supervisors, unions, and veterans with various services and support resources. OEAP provides the survivor a referral to counseling services in network with Optum, or if they don't have insurance with the state, then OEAP would work with their insurance provider to provide referrals. Community resources such as locating a shelter or support groups could be provided. This process would also be provided for the person causing harm. OEAP can provide resources for batterers intervention programs. The Barbara Warner Domestic Violence Committee member agencies are Ohio Department of Health, Ohio Domestic Violence Network, the Center for Family Safety and Healing, and representatives from the Ohio Departments of Administrative Services, Mental Health and Addiction Services, Public Safety, Rehabilitation and Correction, Youth Services, and the Office of the Ohio Attorney General. Domestic violence doesn't stay home when victims go to work. Thank you for helping make the workplace safer for State of Ohio employees.